Your movie this week is called Radar Secret Service. In the line of fire, it ain't. But first, a little train wreck of a short called Last Clear Chance.
This time we watched Season 5, Episode 20, Radar Secret Service.
In which radar is not secret, but does, in fact, save the world from organized crime.
Well, and it's got a short, Last Clear Chance.
I have no clear memory of Last Clear Chance, Chris. We're going to have to talk more about it.
That's curious, because it is the most memorable part of this episode in most people's estimation.
Is it, though?
Yes. It really is. This is like a beloved short, and it's one that they continue to make reference to throughout the rest of the series with the classic, "Why don't they look?" line.
Okay, I totally remember Why Don't They Look, but also, do we have any follow-up? Why don't they have follow-up?
Well, we do have some follow-up.
Oh, good.
First off, a lot of people wrote in to confirm that they too love I Accuse My Parents.
Excellent.
But we also got a message on our Discord from devoted listener Perry, who asked us if we caught the Thin Man riff in I Accuse My Parents, saying they're good movies from the 30s and 40s, but hard to find to actually watch. I'd bet money it was Frank Conniff who wrote that riff. It may well have been Frank Conniff, but I suspect a lot of the writers had seen The Thin Man.
Oh, yeah. The Thin Man is a great movie. It's actually one of my mother's very favorites. She loves Myrna Loy. Like, hands down, her favorite of all the characters inside of the Thin Man movies. Oh, wait, and the dog. She loves the dog, too.
The dog is Asta, if I remember correctly.
I think so, yes.
Because Asta makes for very good crossword fill. It was a good long time when Asta would show up in quite a lot of crosswords. Maybe not so much anymore, since apparently The Thin Man is hard to find. I haven't seen it in a while. I don't know if I've ever sat down and watched it. Certainly haven't done it as an adult. Probably should get around to doing that because everybody loves this film, and I have, fond memories of it.
Yeah, I think I need to get down to reading the book that it's based on. I don't think that I had any recollection that was the case until it came up inside of our Discord conversation.
Also, it came up in the most recent episode of The Spouter Inn, where my co-host there, Suzanne, had read it recently. So, good times. Dashiell Hammett, fun writer, apparently. I actually haven't read it.
God, yeah, there must be something in the air. My goodness.
Thin men are in the air, but we can't breathe them in because we have to breathe in the great taste of radar.
It's our last clear chance. This time we watch Season 5, Episode 20, Radar Secret Service.
But first, a short, Last Clear Chance, brought to you by Union Pacific Railroad, who are frankly tired of having to clean you off of their trains. And so they've made this little educational film in which a young man's first driver's license arrives in the mail. And a cop soon shows up to, well, first of all, harass the guy for driving after he'd been awarded the license, but before it had arrived in the mail. And second, to show him a bunch of surely confidential police reports about the horrific traffic accidents that have happened in the area, including the accident report of someone that the new driver knew in high school, but didn't know had died. Well, anyway, eventually the cop gets to the biggest danger out there, trains. And sure enough, after the lecture wraps up, our new driver gets to watch his older brother and his older brother's girlfriend ignore a railroad crossing sign and get hit by a train. "Why don't they look?" asks one of the train workers. Later, as the older brother is buried, the cop lingers outside of the cemetery, presumably too embarrassed that he lectured the wrong guy. The end.
And now for our feature presentation. Excuse me, but do you have a moment to hear the good news about radar? The message of radar has helped us win the war, and now radar has brought us to a time of peace, and the continued word grants us deeper understanding of the world around us and our place within it. Lo, hear the prophecy of the unlimited possibilities of radar. Radar has given us a world where the sinking of the Titanic need never have happened. After all, now radar can help a ship see icebergs long before they break your hull. Radar has given man dominion over nature and allowed us to find mineral resources deep within the earth. Thanks to radar, nature's innermost secrets are made known to man with a minimum of effort. Radar has explored the reaches of Alaska to reveal the false temptation of resources, so yea, we may avoid it. Radar has redirected our attention to the vast quantities of fish in the depths of the ocean, feeding the masses, and now all fishing vessels will carry the powerful equipment. Why, radar can even defeat evil in the heart of man and organized crime. Case in point, Michael, Mickey, and their crew are planning on stealing a delivery of radioactive U-238 and selling it for individual profit. Their selfish intention is to gain short-term worldly wealth, but radar will thwart their plans. Radar sees the truth. Through its prophet Tom, it will direct Bill, Static, and a team of saviors to capture this wicked crew. When the team arrives too late, they see the material drive away, but they do capture one of the henchmen. Radar's beams continue to look for the movement of the U-238, and soon it sees it moving. Mickey has tried to deliver a small portion to test radar's all-knowing senses, but you and I know radar sees all, and this attempt is revealed and thwarted. Despite the omniscience of radar, the wickedness in the hearts of man continues to work towards selfish, worldly gain. The crew devises a plan to send out a small decoy amount of U-238 in one direction, then shortly after deliver the bulk of the product to its true destination. But radar is not fooled by this obvious display. Working in its mysterious ways, radar sends our saviors to recover the radioactive material, and radar sends them to capture the wicked ones. The evil crew turns on each other over and over, suffering from the pressure of radar's omnipresence. Those spreading the good word of radar defeat evil in all its forms. Organized crime falls, and radar reigns supreme. The end.
Meanwhile, on the satellite of love, Mike Nelson is not the sort of guy who could use any special parts to make robot friends. He simply doesn't have the know-how. And yet, here he is, trying to do delicate operations on Crow. And so, of course, it goes horribly wrong. Crow's voice becomes that of Arnold Horshack from 70s sitcom Welcome Back, Kotter. Then, Mike starts tearing up the bot's undergarments. The idea is that he's trying to make one of those blanket ropes in order to climb down to Earth. I mean, look, the guy has been trapped up in space for, 7 episodes now? He's getting pretty desperate. Back in Deep 13, the Mads are excited to announce that, in the tradition of rock climbing and deep hurting, today's episode will feature hypnoheliostatic stasis enriched with X4. Basically, they're really selling that the movie will be slow and bad. But first, a short. And after that, a sketch about the short. Tom plays a lecturing cop talking about the dangers of hard salami, lint traps, and hot plates. Mike dutifully illustrates each of these dangers, and Crow asks again and again, why don't they look? Then the Mads interrupt to once again emphasize how dull Radar Secret Service is going to be. And so, after some movie, the bots try to lift up Mike's spirits by putting on a 10-year high school reunion party. Because he can't go to his real one on account of being trapped in space. Tom plays a guy who got married and stayed in town and now drinks a lot. Crow plays a Poindexter who Mike doesn't really remember. And GPC plays Janine, who's got 9 kids now and teases Mike for never asking her out. But then the DJ announces they're going to play some Impaler, and everyone gets excited. A bit later, we learn that Mike and Crow have built a model of the Quinn Martin Nature Preserve, a proposal for a place where character actors from old Quinn Martin shows can live out the rest of their days roaming freely. Quinn Martin was a television producer, like Aaron Spelling or Sherwood Schwartz, and he made shows like The Fugitive and Barnaby Jones. And I bring this up now because I'm sorry, we're not going to do a segment on Quinn Martin Productions, Especially because it has nothing to do with Radar Secret Service anyways. And after the movie, Mike and the bots have the last laugh. They weren't affected by the hypnoheliostatic stasis, thanks to the power of ecstato-euphoro-fun with patented Hinder 90. What silly, silly words. So silly. Very, very silly. Anyway, what do you think, sirs?
Okay, so the hypnoheliostatic stasis totally worked on me because I completely forgot the short. And then as you were talking about the short, I was like, oh my gosh, how could I have forgotten? That was a great short.
It is a great short, and it is a boring movie.
It's true.
Though I do feel like some of these efforts of hyping up how bad the movie's going to be, like the hypnoheliostatic stasis or all the hype that they put around The Bubble when that came out much later, of course.
Yeah.
Sometimes it doesn't do them any favors because the movie may or not live up to it and all that.
But the rock climbing totally lived up to it.
Well, the rock climbing was nice and specific, right?
Yeah, I guess that's true. But deep hurting? Like, I remember deep hurting. Deep hurting really did hurt super deep.
And deep hurting was tied to something specific in that episode as well. But
true.
This was just a vague sense of, well, nothing's happening. And they came up with a silly name for it. And I don't know. I don't find it as effective, but whatever. I like this episode quite a lot.
Sure. It was a fun enough episode, though. Definitely Radar Secret Service. Ooh, it is. There was a lot of standing around. They were right.
Well, I should also say I like this episode a lot, but I don't watch it very often. The short is great. Don't get me wrong.
The short is great. Mm-hmm.
And most of the sketches are fun. But the movie itself is a drag. But it's such a weird movie that I'm glad I know about it, and I never would have known about it if it wasn't on this show.
That's true, yes.
I also wanted to shout out something I meant to mention last time around, but it kind of happens again in this one. Not quite as good. One of the things that I really loved in the previous episode was the Are You Happy When You Work sketch.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a funny sketch on paper. They just move around like they do in the movie, and Joel runs around and quickly puts on grease paint pencil mustaches or whatever. But there's so much little action of the bots moving in front of the camera and so forth, and this, that, and the other. There's so much busy work happening in the background, and for whatever reason, it just delights me so much. And I was glad to see that come back for the reunion sketch this time around, where again you've got the other bots are sort of moving in front of the camera while stuff is happening behind the console. It's a delightful use of space.
Yeah, because of course you want that feeling of there being lots of people at the reunion, even though in reality, Mike, there's 3 other beings there with you, right? Whereas, and the same thing with the sketch where GPC is singing the song or lip syncing the song, you want that sense of there being a big nightclub around her. And they really are able to give you that impression from what's happening. It's true. And the reunion, if you are going to have Mike be, have his soul bombed a little bit by the fact that his reunion is happening, you do want to make it seem like there's a little bit of a crowd. But I don't know if Mike gets this impression as much as we do watching it.
So this is by Sam Newfield again, and it's from 1950. It's a few years after I accused my parents. I do have a question that maybe you have the answer to, maybe you don't.
Uh-oh.
Because watching both of these movies, I realized I don't understand the women's haircuts of the 40s.
They're like butter. Come on, isn't that what they say?
Yes, they're described as like a butter sculpture at one point, and that's very true. But like from a sort of architectural perspective, I have no idea how these effects are assembled. There are curls and waves of hair coming out of nowhere. It is like AI generated hair.
Mm-hmm. I mean, essentially, it is quite artificial. When there's a riff that they make at one point in time where he's like, I haven't combed my hair in 13 years. And it's like, yes, that hairstyle is one that somebody inside of a salon makes, and they do the curls and they spray it and it's cemented in place, and you are going to walk out with that hair, and then you're going to put a little hairnet on that thing. If it's even misty outside, you have a hairnet on that you've tied. My grandmother used to have these, right? They're like the little plastic bonnets that you would put on to protect your hair. And then when you get home, you're going to shower, but you're not going to wash your hair. Oh no, you don't wash that hair. That hair is done in a salon and it stays there, right? So you have to wear your shower caps.
I feel like wigs would have just been a simpler solution.
Well, I mean, yeah, you're pinning all those curls in and stuff like that. I wonder if all of that hair is real. It's probably not all real.
Some of it is cheese.
Some of it is cheese. Some of it may indeed be butter. So you better hope it's not too hot out, huh? Yeah, hairstyles like that are a lot of work.
Sure.
Yeah, and you could tell the ladies apart. I have a little bit of an issue with them being like, I thought it was the same lady. And it's like, no, come on. One of them parts her hair on the left-hand side, and the other one parts it on the right. They're totally different looking.
They are a bit different looking, but also very similar looking.
Sure.
Especially in that first establishing shot where you cut to the woman with the slightly more elaborate hairdo sitting down, and then the woman who has pretty much the same facial structure, but a slightly less complicated hairdo. Mm-hmm. And you hard cut from one to the other, and it's like, wait, that's the same person.
No,
just at a different angle.
The part changes every time. That's how you can tell them from each other.
This is a small difference, I'm afraid.
This is enough of a difference for me, everybody. One of them's Clark Kent. The other one is Superman. Come on. So, Chris, I know that I kind of had a little memory lapse at the beginning of the episode about this particular short, but there is one thing about it that absolutely came up to my mind while I was watching it, and that's the scare tactics that we inflict upon new drivers.
Yeah, well, as somebody who is not even a new driver yet, in that I don't know how to drive, I've never taken driver's ed, and I am only familiar from like sitcoms where kids are learning how to drive and they see the horrible movie with lots of blood and whatnot. And this feels like a precursor to that. Are those real?
Yes, those are real.
Did you have to see something like that?
Yes, I did.
Did you see this? Because you're from the West Coast, so this is like, this was marketed at you or your parents, more likely.
I did not actually see this one, or if I did, I don't have a clear memory of it, which is fine. But what I do remember seeing is a couple of episodes in the Red Asphalt series.
That sounds like a sex story. That sounds like a Showtime special.
Just because it has red in the title doesn't mean it's sexy. And Red Asphalt is absolutely not a sexy movie at all. When I was growing up and where I grew up outside of San Francisco, in high school, we had a course that was driver's ed. It wasn't driver's ed when it actually taught you how to drive the car. So I didn't sit in a car and drive at all. But what we did was we had a semester-long course where we actually learned about the rules of the road, and we went through all of the DMV manual and things like that. And it was, bumped up against a health class where they taught us sex ed and all about, drugs and alcohol and drinking and those sorts of things. And those classes still exist in high school today, where you learn about all the different terrible effects on your body when you even think about meth, right? But the driver's part of it is gone, because I asked my kid, who is now 16, if he's ever seen any of these kinds of movies that are trying to depict what accidents are actually like. Not what they look like in the movies, but just show you actual footage of real accidents from real life. And he's like, nope, they never talk to us about that sort of thing. We never see those in class. But because I had driver's ed in school, that was part of the curriculum, which is how I know I've seen a few of the red asphalts.
Okay, so although I did not learn to drive, I can also assure you that nothing like this was part of the school curriculum where I grew up in New York City as well.
What? New York City wasn't teaching you all how to be afraid of driving? I mean,
we got like a 5-minute talk about how to use the subway at one point, but it's not that complicated, really.
No, but I mean, at the same time, what a phenomenal skill to have, right? And driving's a good skill to have as well. I don't want to in any way say that like, oh, if you only have to learn one of these two things, but it's nice to know both. The driving part, like the Red Asphalt series, again, it is very much like this short that we have with Last Clear Chance, where they're talking to you about real accidents that happened on the road. And the Red Asphalt series in the beginning is like, hey, like it's the California Highway Patrol. They're the ones who did the Red Asphalt series. They're about 15, 16. Yeah, totally. Ponch is totally in there. Telling us all about the accidents we're going to see and that they're actually real. They're not staged. They do some filming of some crash test dummies to kind of show you some of the things that happen, but they're showing like a camera crew went along with CHP and filmed dead people in their cars on the side of the road who have just gotten into accidents, like filmed EMTs, like picking brains off of the sidewalk. Like it is so gruesome and gross. Like I watched one of them because of course YouTube has the entire series, and I watched the one from 1989 because I think that's most likely to be the one that I saw more than once inside of my schooling. And it is, I mean, it's so disturbing and it's so gross, and it's all about trying to scare you into being a better driver. It's totally the why don't they look?
Okay, this makes all sorts of TV shows and movies that are made in California make a lot more sense.
Right? But only for people who were in our generation making these movies. Because apparently, like one generation later,
your kid is not growing up in California. I don't know.
That is also true.
There's no reason why he would have seen Red Asphalt.
No, except, I mean, maybe our listeners can let us know if growing up in other places they had a Red Asphalt equivalent, or whether they actually saw red asphalt. Like it's not like the accidents that happen in California are unique to California. It was accidents that were caused by people who were drinking and driving, accidents that were caused by people who fell asleep at the wheel, right? People who weren't paying attention because they were yelling at their kids in the back of their car and they hit the median or the side of the road or something like that. They talked about seatbelts and how important seatbelts are. Like we've had this discussion here on It's Just a Show, but they had the discussion of like how seatbelts are really important and how no, you don't want to be thrown from the car to safety, because it turns out that's not what actually happens. I mean, oh, it's so gruesome. Chris, it's so gruesome.
It sounds very gruesome. Do you think it helped make you a better driver?
No.
Okay.
I mean, maybe it made me pause and think a little bit. I mean, it affects me more now as an adult than I think it did when I was a kid. Because, of course, I was watching this before I was an actual driver. And statistically, most new drivers get into an accident within their first year or two of having their license. And I did. And I did because I made a stupid mistake, right? I was driving in the middle of the night in an area of San Francisco I didn't know, and I made an illegal left-hand turn. And I'm incredibly lucky that there was damage to cars, but no damage to people, because of my incredibly bad choice, right? And this whole series, Red Asphalt, is all about people who were making bad decisions that had disastrous consequences, who weren't so lucky.
But don't you see? You could have been a movie star.
Yeah, this is not the movie I want to be the star of.
Hey, while we're talking about the short real quick, there's a few little things I wanted to ask you about.
Sure.
At some point, Frank and his girlfriend go to a drive-in,
Mm-hmm.
and on the sign on the drive-in, they offer chicken in a basket.
I didn't notice that.
Is chicken in a basket something you're familiar with?
I mean, I've been to diner type things that have like basket meals where you get your burger and your fries and your drink. Is that what they're talking about? Or are they actually talking about an edible basket?
No, I think it's just coming in like a basket after it's been fried and so forth. And I guess this is a term of art that I just really hadn't encountered as somebody who doesn't eat chicken either, in addition to not driving. And maybe it's more popular in some parts of the world than others. I'm not sure. Listeners, feel free to write in. My internet research suggests it's really a UK thing, but clearly not just. But it never occurred to me that chicken in a biscuit is a pun on chicken in a basket. Chicken in a biscuit, beloved cracker that we've talked about before.
Delicious cracker. Delicious cracker, yes.
Yeah, but it's a pun on chicken in a basket. Of course it is.
Of course it is. What a revelation.
There's also a moment when they're like using a metaphor of a roulette wheel.
Yes.
And the roulette wheel at one point dramatically stops on a red 1 to indicate that like your number will come up.
Yes. Yep, you can only make so many gambles with your life before.
Well, here's the thing. A red 1 is no better or worse than any other number in roulette. It just depends on what you bet on. If you bet on red, if you bet on black, if you bet on 1, if you bet on 17.
It's true.
It's fine. Like a red 1 is perfectly fine. And yet they make it this heavy-handed symbolism of like, oh no.
Well, I mean, it is red. And...
He could have won a lot of money from that result.
Well.
Anyway.
I mean, you know the monkey paws story, right? Where you wish a whole bunch of money and then what happens is someone dies and you collect insurance. It's like, ooh, what are you betting on?
No. You're betting on roulette. That's what we're talking about right now. The other thing that I learned from this short was a few names for the signs around the railroad tracks. And maybe this is something that you learned at driver's ed, but I didn't know what the name of that X-shaped sign that says railroad crossing, you know what I mean? That one?
Mm-hmm.
It has a fun name, which I didn't know before.
I don't remember the name.
It's called a crossbuck.
That is a good name.
Also, more controversially, based on Wikipedia, they give a name for the signal that lights up and potentially moves when the train is coming by.
Mm-hmm.
They call it a wigwag.
Why is wigwag controversial?
Well, according to the Wikipedia page, a wigwag in the U.S. is the one that swings back and forth like a pendulum, which we do see an example of in this movie. But we also see the other kind where there's two stationary lights that alternate, right? Blink, blink, blink,
yes.
blink.
Mm-hmm.
Which is called a wigwag in the UK and elsewhere.
But not here?
According to the Wikipedia article, not here, despite the fact that we have evidence of somebody calling it a wigwag.
Inside of this very short.
In 1959, yeah.
Even made by the railroad. Shouldn't they be using the terminology of the time?
Well, exactly. I mean, they know what they're talking about.
You would think so.
I dug back into that Wikipedia article's discussion, and it seemed like there was a whole lot of discussion around 2006 about how that page was way too America-focused and didn't have the full information and probably shouldn't be framed like that. And then somebody was just like, nope, it's fine. We're moving on. And no one has touched it since. I think some enterprising Wikipedia editor listening should go and open up that debate again and fix that page a bit.
Chris, this is our second Sam Newfield movie in a row.
It's true. And we did Jungle Goddess, which is not a Sam Newfield film, even though they keep saying it is. But it does kind of have his vibes. I'll give him that.
Sure. Last time when we were talking about the Sam Newfield, I accused my parents. We did bring up a Sam Newfield movie, and I didn't realize we were going to do Radar Secret Service, also Sam Newfield, directly afterwards. So I thought maybe we should watch a Sam Newfield movie that's just as renowned as these two.
There's only one that really fits that bill.
Right. And that's The Terror of Tiny Town.
Oh, boy. I heard about The Terror of Tiny Town a long, long time ago because it's kind of famous for being in like the 50 worst films ever book and all that. And it's just notorious because it's really easy to sum up what's going on there. It's a Western movie from 1938 where all of the cast are little people. And like, okay, huh. And, flash forward many, many decades. And now it's just up on YouTube. You can watch it.
Yeah.
And Huh. Interesting. Interesting how available that has become.
Would you, in fact, put The Terror of Tiny Town in the worst 50 movies you've ever watched?
Oh, no.
Neither would I.
Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about the film first, then we can talk about how it shows up in that book.
So, not even talking about the cast, The Terror of Tiny Town is, it's a Western. And it is very typical for a Western. They introduce two families who own cattle ranches, and they have some past history of animosity, and a rivalry is being like reignited. And it turns out there is a villain, a third party, who is doing this to both sides because the villain wants to take both of their properties and both of their herds of cattle and be the only rich and important person in town.
Yeah.
At the end of the movie, the villain has been unmasked, has been killed, and the two children from each of the family become a couple. Like typical Western.
Bog standard.
If it had a different cast, it wouldn't have had any like notoriety and probably would have been completely forgotten.
Agreed.
So, anything you would add to that was notable about The Terror of Tiny Town other than the cast?
Well, I will say that there's one thing that happened that I thought was actually kind of neat, which is that it does the thing that we wish so many movies would do, or so many characters in movies would do. There's a character who starts talking to other people about what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
You know the whole trope of like, why isn't anyone just saying the thing that they know? It would be so much simpler if they just did that. Well, in this movie, the good guy character goes up to the enemy rancher and is like, hey, this is weird. We should talk about this. Mm-hmm. And it's like, how many movies have you wanted that scene to happen? So good on it for doing that. But otherwise, yeah, super bog standard. So why do you think this movie got listed as one of the worst movies of all time?
I mean, so I don't think the storyline is particularly remarkable. Like, the acting isn't, it's not particularly good.
Nope. It ranges from fine to not really good.
Yeah, and it looks like every other Western.
Well, in some ways, of course, but in some ways it doesn't, right?
Sure.
Because noticeably, there's all sorts of things that are made to, let's say, highlight the gimmick, the exploitative gimmick of the movie, right? So, it's like every other movie, except instead of on horses, they're on Shetland ponies.
Yes.
They're on little tiny ponies.
Mm-hmm.
And people go through saloon doors.
Yes, but the saloon doors are at eye level. The bottom of the saloon doors are at eye level rather than at the entire door being at chest level.
Right. So those sorts of things happen. There's one scene where there's like a band playing and there's somebody playing an upright bass, except of course they need to have two people, one person to work the top with the fingering and the other person to actually like pluck or bow the strings. So sure, like there are some visual differences. Interestingly, I had to keep reminding myself to notice them. Maybe you had the same thing where it's like, yeah, of course they're going to walk under the saloon doors. That's fine. And then I had to remember, oh, wait, that's supposed to be vaguely funny, isn't it?
I guess.
This like perfectly normal thing is the thing that you're like supposed to say, oh, that's something you don't see every day. Oh, that's not how that's supposed to work. Ha ha. But it just felt normal to me.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like visually, those things I guess were supposed to be like punchlines, but they weren't. They were just like, well, this is a person walking through the world. Like, what's so weird about this? And in fact, I don't know if the version that you saw had like a small opening scene where a guy on a microphone, is that canon for the movie?
That is canon part of the movie, yes. There's one average-sized person in the film who introduces it, and then two of the stars, the good guy and the bad guy, appear and argue about which of them is going to be the bigger star, and that's meant to be a joke because big stars.
But he also introduces it as a comedy. Like, this is a funny movie. It's funny because there's little people in it. And then you watch the movie and you're just like, it's just like every other Western, buddy. Like, what's going on here?
Yeah. By the way, that MC later had a role in a little film called The Blob. Keep an eye out for him sometime.
Sure. Heads up.
But anyway, yeah, it's very strange in that sense. And I think a lot of the making fun of the movie for being bad spends quite a lot of time making fun of how this looks because they're little people, and that's either somehow inherently funny or it's inherently implausible or something. Like,
yeah,
the bit, I reread the bit from the Medved 50 Worst Films of All Time book about it, and it's real dodgy. It's real dodgy, let's just say.
Yeah, that's fair. Because once again, like, this in no way is among the 50 worst movies I've ever seen. And that's one of the things that I was thinking about as I was watching it. Is just like, I mean, it's a Western, it's a little dull and it's not very well acted, but it's very typical for a Western. Like, what's the deal here? Why do people think this movie is so incredibly bad, right? Honestly, I think this movie would have been a great one for MST3K if it hadn't had the gimmick of having a cast that was entirely little people, because they would not have been able to riff it with that happening on screen. But everything else about the movie, the pacing, the acting, the setups of the shots and things is very like reminiscent of other things that MST3K has done. And I guess I'm glad that Terror of Tiny Town is not the Sam Newfield movie that they put inside of the lineup, because I don't think that they could have riffed it without seeming like they were mocking the hook that the movie has, rather than the poor choices that they made acting-wise or script-wise.
Hey everybody, it's time for the Shallow 13.
It's time for the Shallow 13. 13 blips on the screen that can only indicate incoming fun facts about today's experiment, Radar Secret Service. Go, Charlotte, go!
Let's start with the short. Last Clear Chance was produced by Union Pacific Railroads in 1959, just 5 years after they made another safety horror short, The Days of Our Years, riffed in Season 6, along with The Amazing Transparent Man. The Days of Our Years has a scene with the welders in it, if that helps jog your memory.
The cop in Last Clear Chance is played by William Boyett, who looks like he was born to play a cop. And, in fact, he played a cop in quite a lot of shows, from a regular appearance on 50s cop show Highway Patrol to playing a cop in an episode of Star Trek The Next Generation.
Yep, he shows up in a holodeck episode called The Big Goodbye from Season 1, where Picard gets in the mood for a little noir action. And he plays a different cop in Time's Arrow Part 2, the time travel episode that opens Season 6, set in 1890s San Francisco. To play one cop on Star Trek already seems weird, but to play two?
I am also delighted to report that he plays a cop in Theodore Rex. You know, the 1995 film where Whoopi Goldberg plays a cop who's teamed up with a dinosaur cop? If you don't know about this movie, well, Whoopi's probably okay about that, but it's worth at least watching the trailer, link in the show notes.
Did he play a cop on Night Court? Of course he did. Did he play a cop on TJ Hooker? You know it. Did he play a cop on the Adam West Batman? Absolutely. Did he play a cop on Bonanza? Well, no. He had a few roles in Gunsmoke, but I'm pretty sure he's not a cop in any of them. Let me just say, Bonanza wouldn't have squandered this guy's talents like that.
Frank Dixon Jr., you know, the guy who gets hit by the train, well, he's played by William A.G. Those are his real parents playing his parents, but the younger brother is played by an unrelated actor. Anyway, William A.G. would grow up to be the CEO of Bendix, and then the CEO of Morrison Knudsen.
And you don't need us to tell you that Bendix is mostly known for automotive parts, including brake systems, which, well, that sure would have been helpful for young Frank Dixon Jr. And Morrison Knudsen built major pieces of civic infrastructure, like, I don't know, the Hoover Dam, and also the San Francisco Bay Bridge, a bridge I have driven across only a few cajillion times.
That all happened long before William Agee became CEO in 1985, though. In fact, his time as CEO saw the company declare bankruptcy. He was fired, and the company was sold, and that was the end of that. Ironically, a lot of their losses during Agee's tenure as CEO would come from their work on trains. I guess trains in the U.S. in the late 80s weren't as profitable as they were when Last Clear Chance was made.
Last Clear Chance was filmed on location in beautiful Meridian, Idaho, just outside of Boise. Nowadays, Meridian is the second largest city in Idaho, and I wish I'd realized that this short was filmed there a year ago. Chris and I drove right through Meridian.
It's true. We could have seen the railroad crossing on Main Street. We could have, looked, saving everyone a lot of bother. We could have gone down to the depot they show.
No, looks like the depot has been demolished, but we could have stopped in nearby Nampa, Idaho, and visited the cemetery, or just waited outside it, too ashamed at our failures to go inside.
Oh, hey, and it looks like there's a Nampa train depot museum. Do you think they have any exhibits about the killer trains from Last Clear Chance? I mean, they must, right? It seems like an obvious tie-in for all of the Misties headed to Idaho to celebrate Last Clear Chance days in the greater Boise area.
Listeners, if you've done the Last Clear Chance tour, write in and let us know. Meanwhile, during the opening credits for Radar Secret Service, Mike and the bots cry out, "Monkey Boy!" when they see the name of Sid Melton. That's a callback to the actor's appearance in Sam Newfield's Lost Continent, Rift in Season 2, where they...
Sorry, Charlotte, but that's time. Actually, there's like a ton of familiar faces in Radar Secret Service, but we're not going to go over them all. You can look it up, kids. None of them are that exciting. Although there's one guy who's playing Static, who at some point talks about how even before radar was invented, Dick Tracy used it.
Yes, I remember. And Flash Gordon and Buck Rogers, but he's the one who brings up Dick Tracy.
Well, and more importantly, did you recognize him?
No, why would I recognize him? Should I recognize him? Who is he?
It's Ralph Byrd from Jungle Goddess, who went on to play Dick Tracy.
Oh, look at that. That's Static? I would have thought that was one of the bad guys in the crew.
I don't know, that you couldn't really tell them apart.
Yeah, it's true. All those white guys with the slick back hair from these movies, they all look the same, especially when they're all wearing the same suit.
So I want to talk a little bit about Radar, because it would seem silly if we didn't talk at least a little bit about Radar.
It's true, especially considering it gives us such clear TV screens of all the things that are happening on highways. I had no idea Radar could do that.
There are so many technologies in so many of these bad movies that we watch on MST3K, where just because it does something at a distance, it means that there's a whole multi-camera film crew and an editor. But whatever. You got to make it appealing on screen.
Sure.
So at one point early in the movie, the manager of the Radar Secret Service, I don't know. But anyway,
Mr. Hamilton, the boss.
I guess so. You paid more attention to that than I did. I could not figure out any of that. But he says at some point, "I've always maintained there's no limit to the possibilities of radar."
He did. It's true. He's the one who said so many of the awesome lines that I used inside of my summary. Like, he's the one who says, "We're infants in this new field of scientific detection. We must crawl before we walk." And it's just like, oh my God, guy, you are really selling this stuff.
Exactly. And that's what the movie is about, after all. It tells us as much, that it's all about where radar is going and what amazing things it'll be able to do in the future. So let's celebrate Radar for a bit, because it is pretty cool and impressive, I suppose. Radar, of course, started out its humble life as an acronym.
Excellent. What does RADAR stand for?
Oh, I thought you might know this one. It is Radio Detection and Ranging.
Ooh, so good.
And the basic idea is that radio waves can bounce off objects, and then you can sense them being when they return to the source and all that. And so that way you can detect things that you can't otherwise see because it's dark or because there's stuff in the way or because, cloud cover and all that.
Or you're underwater and you can't actually see because there's no light.
Yeah, apparently doesn't bounce off water. I don't know all the details. There's books. If you want to go and learn more about radar, your local community college is more than happy to set you up on the basic classes of it.
Yes, absolutely.
I will say radar started to be developed in like the 19th century, I guess, but it becomes really an important technology during World War II.
That makes sense. Considering in World War II, they're trying to do things like detect U-boats and detect submarines in order to, not have ships sunk.
Even more than that, they're trying to detect V-1 cruise missiles coming at them.
Yes.
Which it turns out that radar was really good at, and Britain had invested quite a lot of energy into putting up a whole bunch of radar devices, and there are lots of ask a dad. Ask your local dad if you want that story. Or check YouTube. There's plenty of YouTube videos about it. And plenty of web pages as well.
Yeah. Ask your local, grandpa World War II, knows
I guess
everything.
it is more of a grandpa thing now. Yes.
Sorry, buddy. It is now grandpa's territory.
I suppose so. Either way, the quality of both the data and the visualization took huge leaps during World War II as both sides were desperately trying to use it for offensive and defensive purposes, respectively.
Because it was such an amazing new technology and was helping out so much. Of course they wanted it to be even better.
Sure. I mean, both in the defense, but also in the offense on the German side. Different aspects and different uses of the technology were being developed on either side. But it is really a remarkable technology because specifically it allows you to see things that you couldn't otherwise see. And that seems kind of magical.
Yeah, it does.
And after the war, it continued to be relevant, as this film will tell us, in all sorts of different industries and activities.
Fighting organized crime, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, and that's the thing. So we're going to see a bunch of different things happening in this movie, which I just wanted to bring up relatively briefly. Very few of them are any fun to talk about.
Okay.
But here we go. For example, we see a military technology that's now being repurposed for civilian policing.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's a thing that continues to happen. A lot.
Yes, it does.
Rather a lot. We also see the police arguing that their work in preventing crime, which is something most people are on board with, requires profound surveillance, requires seeing the things that are unseen so that they can go after it.
Oh, Chris, what a way to say that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Without any sense of how this might be a problem for someone or might lead to abuse or anything like that.
No, come on. The cops are always on our side. Why would you think that they would need specialized equipment in order to do some bad policing or policing that's going to be more surveillance state than just for our protection? Ooh, it didn't even hit me that way when I was watching the movie, Chris. You're making it terrible. Go on.
And of course, the media, in this case, the people behind Radar Secret Service, Sam Neufeld and all, are showing the best possible case for it, right? They're showing a time when it works to prevent a crime that probably couldn't have been prevented otherwise.
Yeah.
And therefore, this technology is good and necessary for the police to have, unless you want the crime to happen.
Yeah, if you like crime, you can be against radar.
Even though in that movie, it works far better than could reasonably be expected in the real world, right? So you show a hypothetical better than possible version of the surveillance technology, and you show it saving the day and stopping a crime, and that leads to an argument that the police need as much of this military technology as possible. Otherwise, you're pro-crime, aren't you?
Yeah. Jeez. It is astonishing, actually, that this is radioactive material that's been stolen, but in no way are they addressing, being able to detect radioactivity.
Yeah, no Geiger counters around here.
Right? And that could have been just as effective at finding the U-238 as any radar would have been, right? They're almost using radar as if it is a Geiger counter finding the radioactivity. Because otherwise, what are they seeing? A car? How do they know that's the car that has the stuff? They don't know.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they're tracing a car, but it's true. The movie is giving them information that radar couldn't have done and wouldn't have done because this is also in the middle of a hype cycle, right?
Of course. Of course it is.
Radar has proven to be good at something, and it's proving to be good at more and more things, and therefore it's going to be good at everything. So invest in radar now.
Yes, get ahead of the curve.
And I'm sure we don't know anything about what these hype cycles feel like when you're in the middle of one that's going off like wildfire around you, right?
Absolutely not. I mean, didn't we leave hype cycles behind in the 50s? This isn't a tactic anybody uses anymore.
This is certainly not what we're seeing now with LLMs and AIs, where it's like, yes, it can do a few impressive things, but does that mean it's going to invade everything and do everything and be the solution for everything? Well, some people would like to make you think so.
They certainly would. But as we all know, there are some issues with AI.
I also want to touch on real briefly one of my favorite jokes from the episode, which is from the short pretty early on.
Ooh, which one?
A cop reaches into his car and pulls up his CB whatever. And Tom says, when lilacs last in the dooryard bloomed.
When lilacs last in the dooryard bloomed,
I remember him saying that. I remember noting it down, actually. What is that from?
Okay, well, let me tell you a little story. In 1865, a guy died. His name was Abraham Lincoln. Someone had shot him. You may have heard about this story.
Yeah, I seem to remember hearing a little bit about this guy. He was like a president or something, right? Yeah.
And some people were very sad about this shooting.
Yeah.
And one of those people was a guy named Walt Whitman.
Oh, I think I've heard of that guy. Yeah. He wrote poetry, Leaves of Grass, that guy.
He did. You went to a college that famously isn't named after him.
Famously not named after that Whitman, yes.
So Whitman was a big fan of Lincoln, in that he agreed with a lot of his positions and policies and whatnot, but also he really seemed to be a fan in something approaching the modern sense. He was very exuberant about him. I mean, it's Whitman, so that's how he's going to be.
Oh, he fanboyed over Abraham Lincoln?
Yeah, they were in the same room a couple times, it seems like, though they never actually met or shook hands.
And he got all nervous and stuff. He was like, I don't even know if I could talk to him. I think it's just enough to be here.
It may well have been like that.
Oh. That's actually really sweet.
Kind of.
Yeah.
And when Lincoln died, Whitman wrote a couple poems about it. The most famous of which is probably "O Captain, My Captain."
Yes.
Which got used in a movie a couple of years ago.
Yeah, 30 years ago now or something.
It only came out a year or two after this episode, which was 5 years ago, I think. So.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so time is weird. Go on.
Anyway, there's another longer poem, which is called When Lilacs Last in the Dooryard Bloomed, which is probably, more of the juice, let's say. It's probably the one that's more exciting to a lot of people who are fans of Whitman. I kind of enjoy it more than "O Captain, My Captain," though that poem also has its charms.
Yes.
When Lilacs Last in the Dooryard Bloomed is an elegiac poem that talks a lot about sort of natural imagery. That's natural imagery about the time of year when Lincoln was killed, which was April, if you don't remember. And that's when, I guess, lilacs bloom. So it starts, "When lilacs last in the dooryard bloomed, and the great star early drooped in the western sky in the night, I mourned, and yet shall mourn with ever-returning spring. Ever-returning spring, Trinity sure to me you bring, lilac blooming perennial, and drooping star in the west, and thought of him I love."
Oh.
And he never mentions Lincoln by name, right? He just refers to him as "him I love," which is, it's an elegiac poem. This is a fairly standard move in an elegy, is to sort of not touch the thing that hurts the most, but focus on the things around it that are also hurting, but that you can deal with.
Oof.
Another interesting thing about When Lilacs Last in the Dooryard Bloomed is that many years later, in the mid-20th century, a composer named Paul Hindemith set the poem to be a requiem.
Oh.
To be one of these classical music pieces that are performed as a kind of mass for the dead. And when I was a kid and starting to listen to classical music, I decided that, like, there's a lot of classical music. There's a lot of different types of classical music. I should focus. I should focus on something and get into something specific. And I got into two specific things. I kind of got into string quartets a lot, and I kind of got into requiems a lot.
What an odd choice, Chris. You were a kid. Why were you into death music?
I was a late teenager. Why wouldn't I be into death music?
Yeah. Never mind.
So, there's all sorts of great requiems out there. Like Verdi's Requiem is the fantastically overpowering one, and it's great. And Mozart's Requiem is beautiful but overplayed. And so, of course, I could be snobby that way about it because, 90s kid, I guess.
Sure. It was right after Amadeus came out. So, of course, you were a little sick of Mozart's Requiem. Sure.
Sure, exactly. But, Hindemith's Requiem on When Lilacs Last in the Dooryard Bloom is pretty lovely. It is not a weirdo 20th century piece. It is fairly approachable, I think. So if anybody is interested in checking that out, hey, you came to the right podcast, and I bet you didn't expect that. Listeners, Charlotte has a final factoid, and I have a final factoid, and we are going to compete to see which one is more exciting and ends up in the show, and which one probably ends up in a bonus bit. The stakes are high. It is final factoid fight off.
Oh my gosh, Chris, so much pressure.
Listeners, if you're hearing this, it means I won. So during the prom sketch, it ends with every awkward social interaction ceasing on the announcement from the DJ, played by Mary Jo, that Impaler was going to be playing next. Now, I didn't know who Impaler was. Do you know about Impaler?
I do not know about Impaler. Tell me more.
Well, it turns out Impaler is a local band from Minnesota.
Of course it is.
Who only formed in 1983, so they probably wouldn't have been an exciting thing for these kids when they were in high school. But shortly after, absolutely, because Impaler was a horror-themed metal band.
Stop it. You totally just won the final factoid countdown. What?
They got quite a bit of notoriety a few years later when their EP Rise of the Mutants came out. Tipper Gore did not care for it, and I'm going to send you the cover and see if you can tell me and the listeners what she might have objected to.
Oh, is it like the cover for Two Live Crew? Stop it, Impaler. What are you doing?
Well, tell the listeners what you think this person is doing on the cover.
Okay, so it is a person who is dressed like a heavy metal person. It looks, I cannot tell whether it's male.
It's a guy.
Okay, I was going to say, I can't tell whether it's male or female. Very ambiguous.
'Twas the fashion at the time.
'Twas the fashion, especially among the hard rockers, right?
Yeah.
Looks like they got some flesh or something in their mouth, and it's dripping down and all bloody, and they're crawling towards you on all fours. Looks like maybe there's an extra hand in there that they're feasting upon. So I'm going to go with, eating people. This is a cover of people eating people.
Yeah. I caught a video that they made for one of the songs off this EP. I don't know whether they made it or not. It's a very cheaply filmed live video that has terrible sound quality, but it's on YouTube. And you can see them in their getup playing in a stage that would look cooler if it weren't like a little tiny stage at like a high school gym or something. It's amazing because they still are going all out. They're committing to the bit. They're covered in their, makeup and their outfits and the whatnot. And like the lead singer rises out of a coffin covered in blood.
I mean, that's amazing, but it seems like he's just cosplaying as Beef from Phantom of the Paradise.
With a real interest in raw meat. Yeah. It looks like a giant liver or something in his mouth.
God, that's beautiful. Oh. It's beautiful.
Anyway, Tipper Gore and her, Save the Children from Terrible Imagery and Music coalition did not care for that at all, which only would have made it cooler.
Parental discretion advised. If you've been affected by the issues on this show, if you want to testify about the glories of radar, or if you'd like to ask us anything, get in touch with us. Our email is info@itsjustashow.com, and we're on Blue Sky. We'd love to hear from you. This show is made possible by listeners like you, and like our randomly selected supporter, Catherine. Thank you, Catherine. For about $1 an episode, you can be like Catherine and help us research and record this show. You can join us in a friendly Discord, and you can listen to all our super fan bonus bits. Find out more at itsjustashow.com/Patreon or patreon.com/itsjustashow. And if you want to follow up on anything that was mentioned today, you'll find links in our show notes at itsjustashow.com/episode/182. Well, Chris, we have warned new drivers of the dangers of driving, and we've saved the world through radar. What could possibly be on our agenda next?
Next time, we're going down to New Orleans
Ooh.
for KTMA episode 15, Superdome.
Oh my gosh, we're going to go see the Saints play? Is that what we're going to do?
We're gonna see a Super Bowl game.
Oh my gosh, if only Elvis the magician could be there.
Yeah, maybe. Well, David Jansen will be there, so we'll have to make do with him. But until then...
In the future, you will drive to work and play in huge loaves of hollowed-out bread. Miracle Teflon brewer's yeast makes it possible.
But can radar save our stifling marriage? Take it away, Theme Squad.